एक सवाल है, how Salikeen can bring the inner sunnah into their lives. I think by the inner sunnah you mean the hidden dimension of sunnah, which is like your sincerity, your ikhlas, your lillahiyat in your sunnah, the inner dimension of namaz, so as to say. Well, for that, this path of suluk is there, which you'd call Tazkiyah nafs, which cleanses your heart, which cleanses your nafs and inculcates in you sincerity, ikhlas, and corrects your niyyah. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. It changes your niyyah and gives purity to your intentions, so that you start doing, adhering to the sunnah and the farais sincerely, with sincerity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, without having any shade of your nafs on it. So for that, this path, ask your Shaykh, he'll give you zikr, he'll give you different exercises, so that this your heart starts getting cleansed, your nafs starts getting tamed, and slowly and steadily, inshallah, you'll achieve this inner dimension of sunnah, inshallah. Another question here, nowadays romance and lust has been given a civilized name of love. Youngsters are doing uncivilized and immoral things in the name of love. And then the biggest fight of this generation with parents is that they have fallen in love with someone while parents want them to get married somewhere else. In this context, what are your comments about love and arranged marriage? Obviously, Sharia does not allow you to fall in love the way youngsters get it done today. Obviously, you're not supposed to intermingle with ghair mahram, men or women. And obviously, when the youngsters tell their parents that we've fallen in love, it means that they've been talking to to another boy or a girl. And obviously, things have gone much further than that, which is not permitted by the Sharia. That's point one. Point two, it has to be a real balance. And the opinion I'm giving now is keeping in mind the current state of affairs, the current times. Suppose you get your son or daughter telling you this, be very patient, be very tolerant, and see if the boy, the other side, where your child wants to get married, is compatible family-wise, status-wise. The matter of kuf in Islam, where it is desired that you do see the family the other boy or the girl belongs to, the background, the status, because if there's a big difference in these, the chances are that once the marriage has been done, there'll be conflict, and eventually there's going to be breaking of the marriage, which we see often today. Because what happens is that our children, being infatuated, I'd say, and with the environment or with this intermingling of the opposite sex, they're so overwhelmed with the infatuation that at that time they're blinded to the fact that life is not, your life partner is someone whom you're going to be there for the next 40, 50 years. So there are many more things to be watched. Just looks are not enough, and so on and so forth. So parents also have to be a little tolerant. If there's room of compatible and there's compatibility, I think the parents should consider this point. And because as far as Islam is concerned, although as I said, it's absolutely prohibited for opposite sex to intermingle. That's there. But if for any reason a boy just wants to marry someone, it's not prohibited. In fact, on the other hand, in an arranged marriage, for example, if the boy or the girl is not ready or not willing, So that is prohibited by Islam. And now coming back to something a little before that, look at the type of education we give to our children. And this is like, generally, maybe there are exceptions, but we send them to co-ed schools where intermingling parties are encouraged, and our sole criteria of success is that our children are going to be excellent in English, and what's the difference whether there are girls and boys together. And what happens is that, do remember, this is human nature. Attraction of the opposite sex is very normal. So by the time they've come into the A levels or graduation, so they're so attracted. But for that to get them to this point, we as parents have been responsible for it. We've not been mentoring them correctly. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. I remember I went to grammar school, which was a co-ed institution, but uh, because the family values were so strong at the house, at that time we didn't have mobile phones, of course, so there were landlines, and I remember there was no it was not even on the table that a girl would call on the landline. And I just remember I was in my A levels, and some girl, I don't know how she got my number. She just called to ask about the homework or something. And the next day I went to her and said, "Oh, please don't call me again at home. Whatever you want to discuss at the school." Because I know my family background, and I was, mentally I had no problems with that. So we have to mentor our children in such a way that even if we send them to any school, we got to, you know, groom them in such a way. Now the problem is that throughout we bring them up, and we encourage the liberalism, and then they see liberalism in our lives, and eventually when they you know they're actually doing whatever we've taught them, whatever environment we've given them. So जब वो result आता है, when we get to that, and then we start cribbing, why is the boy wanting to marry someone or the girl wanting to marry someone? We are to be blamed, point one. But as I said, having said that, uh, if there's such a matter, please be very tolerant. I know it is very hard, but be tolerant and see if there's compatibility. If there's not, then please you need to then educate your uh, child to refrain from such a thing, which would be disaster for himself. Similarly, for arranged marriage, again here parents should also see the likes and dislikes of their children. Marriage may be arranged. My marriage was arranged, and Alhamdulillah, I'm extremely happy. And but I'm sure even at that time, knowing my nature, knowing my views, my parents found a compatible girl for me. So again, I would prefer arranged marriage generally. Please. Uh, but again, as I said, it's not binding as far as Islam is concerned. What is binding is that intermingling for boys and girls, and coming into contact, and then going on and on and on in a relationship, which is absolutely haram. So that is absolutely not allowed. Second is, nowadays safarish has become a norm in getting a job and getting good postings and promotion. There are people who think safarish isn't good, but there's a sort of peer pressure because this thing is that is सिफारिश is so common nowadays. Need your guidance कि सिफारिश जायज़ है कि नहीं. देखिए, जायज़ सिफारिश is जायज़. If no, सिफारिश can be two types. एक सिफारिश is not a सिफारिश, but a pressure कि ये someone who's incapable, give him that post. That's wrong. But if somebody is uh, he's capable and deserving of that post, and you just give a recommendation. Don't we, when we're going to college, don't we get recommendations from our school? So what is recommendation? सिफारिश हो गई ना. तो वो वाली सिफारिश is जायज़. when you recommend somebody that कि भाई अगर कोई donation दे रहा है and you say कि this person uh, is well deserving of your money. So that safarish is jaiz if that person is deserving. If he is not, then that safarish is absolutely not on. Similarly, if there's a post or promotion where the person is not capable or deserving, then that safarish is not on. And then the safarish should, as I said, it should not be a pressure, not a pressure where you, it's not a safarish, it's an indirect order. Well, that's not correct. But like Mujaddid al-Fasani, we read in the Maktubats of Mujaddid al-Fasani, Rahmatullah Ali, often makes a safarish for somebody. And the person he's writing to will say that this letter is being brought to you by such and such, and he is a well deserving person, and if you can facilitate him, I'll be much obliged. So that sort of safarish is jaiz. I hope you get the point between the difference between the two types of safarish. So it's not as if safarish hai haram, ऐसी बात भी नहीं है, but jaiz safarish is okay. And then if you've given somebody, you've recommended somebody for the post, and आगे से they don't oblige, कोई बात नहीं. So there should be no ill feeling or बैड ब्लड कि क्यों इसने किया, नहीं ठीक है. और दूसरी बात है, यू कैन टेल द पर्सन होम यू रिकमेंडेड कि भाई ठीक है जी मैं कर देता हूँ, एंड सामने वाला करे ना करे आपके नसीब. एंड सो अगर आपने कर दिया तो आपको उसका सवाब भी मिलेगा इफ द पर्सन इज डिजर्विंग. क्योंकि a lot many times what happens is that you've got applications for a post, so and you don't know कि कौन कैसा है, and then you know somebody recommending some gentleman who's also an applicant for that post, and so you have extra recommendation about someone, so extra knowledge that this someone is capable of handling this job. So sifarish, वो वाली sifarish is jaiz, and the arm twisting sifarish, that would not be welcomed.